Oh man, this is going to be a fun one. So today, of course, I'm going to be looking at the Pulsar X2H. This is the size 2 medium in the red edition, of course, as you can see. And this is a mouse that, to be quite honest with you, I'm unsure of where to sit. I love everything about it, except for when it doesn't work. More about that later, but first, take a look at, obviously, the mouse itself. And starting off with the shape, like, anybody who's a fan of the Zowie ZA series is probably going to be a fan of this. It isn't a direct one-to-one clone. Sorry for the humid hands, it's pretty hot where I'm at. It's not a direct one-to-one clone, but it's probably the closest thing we've ever gotten as of late to a ZA. And to be quite honest with you, it is a very nice shape. It's got that high hump, pretty narrow towards the middle, very wide in the back, fills out the palm really well, especially for someone with big hands like myself. And it's just a good performing mouse. It's very nice. The coating is not the greatest. You could see earlier, like, my hands are not wet. They are a little humid. It's pretty hot where I'm at, but it picks up on moisture very, very easily. Just doing that, you can kind of see the marks on my mouse a little bit. They do fade, of course, but it does stick, which I suppose is kind of nice. If you're playing, I guess it could feel a bit grippier to you. I personally don't like that feeling. I find it very annoying. But for those of you who do like it, that might be nice. The coating itself does feel nice. It's a little more on the slipperier side, but honestly, there's much worse coatings out there. It's not quite horrible. Honestly, probably the biggest point of contention I have for the actual mouse itself physically would be the switches. They're not, horrible. They're not the worst I've ever used, but I don't know, just something about them just doesn't click with me, pun intended. But it's normally I'm not a huge fan of opticals, to be honest. But I do have some mice that I actually kind of like, such as the Viper V3 Pro. I do like the opticals on this, but for this specifically, it just doesn't sit right with me, I just don't feel that great. I don't know why. It's not really the sound, it's just, I don't know, it feels snappy, but not really snappy. They're kind of mushy, but not really. They're kind of spammable. They're like in the middle ground in all aspects for me, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just not my personal preference. So continuing on with the shape of this, it's in a world of very small mice. As somebody who has big hands, I was kind of expecting this to just be another mouse that kind of fits. I can kind of make it work with like a more natural kind of relaxed claw, almost palm grip. But honestly, it really did surprise me. Again, this hump is pretty huge on the back. It does fill out your palm a lot. And for being one that's only about 120 millimeters long, I can actually comfortably hold this, which is, well, it's a nice surprise, to be honest. Most mice nowadays just don't really allow me to do this. They're just too short, not long enough, not high enough, not wide enough, etc. Again, this is the medium, and it feels pretty big in hand, I'll be honest. I could probably get away with using the mini size as well, or the smaller one. But honestly, this is just a really nice shape, especially for tac shooters, which is what I mainly play, Valorant especially. I actually feel pretty stable with this, right? It makes it easier for me to kind of shoot hold angles and such, because I actually feel kind of locked in. It's a very stable feeling, which is pretty important in games like that have heavy emphasis on crosshair placement, for example. But yeah, honestly, there aren't many parts of this mouse I don't like. The shape is great, the weight is good, about 54 grams. The clicks are not my favorite, but they're not the worst either, to be honest with you. It's not something that I hate. The scroll wheel is a bit on the lighter side, but it's still pretty tactile. It still has some form of defined steps. Mine is actually a little off-centered. I'm not sure if you can see that, but it's not something I feel in game, but obviously when you're looking at it, it is it does kind of bother me, right? It's a little off-centered there, but yeah, overall, this feels really nice. The stock skates are pretty typical standard stock skates. They're okay. not that good, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, and this is why this mouse is a bit of a weird spot for me, is that everything about it is good. Shape's great, the weight's good, the coating's pretty good, the clicks are okay, the switches are nice. The software is, I mean, it's basically typical software. It's not that good, to be honest, but the shape is nice, the performance is nice, I do well with it, I do enjoy using it. But to be quite honest with you, I can't see myself recommending this to anybody. The main reason for that is because Pulsar as a brand is very inconsistent with their quality control. The first time I actually wanted to try this out, I got an acid rewind edition because I thought it looked cool at my local store, and the sensor was dead. It didn't work. Now luckily they let me exchange it for this red one, and it's been working fine just since, but I just can't recommend anything to anybody when they're kind of just buying a lottery ticket on whether it's going to work or not, right? Now obviously, oh, sorry about that. Obviously, you know, the mouse is great, so I guess if you do get a good copy, then good for you, but I just can't really justify spending money on something that you know, might just not work at all. It's just not something that I can do, to be honest. If they got their QC right, this would be maybe not my main mouse, but definitely like in the top 5 for me. But unfortunately, with how their QC is rather, it's just not something I can recommend to anybody. But yeah, I mean, thanks for tuning in. Let me know what you think, and see you. So, very quick sound test of these switches.